They all thought that I was the parasite who couldn't survive without the Jason family. That I was the weak wife who could be easily manipulated by my mother-in-law and would only cry after being betrayed by my husband. For 3 years of marriage, I cooked and managed everything for the Jason family, but in return, I got him rolling in my marital bed with his white moonlight, Ivy. He forced me to divorce, making me leave with nothing, sweeping me out like garbage. Jason said, "Celia, what woman like you would anyone want besides me?" My mother-in-law said, "Our Jason family is truly cursed with bad luck, marrying a hen like you that doesn't lay eggs." Ivy, wearing my nightgown, held Jason's arm and smiled triumphantly. "Sister, don't blame me, blame yourself for not having the ability to keep a man's heart." They didn't know. This marital change was directed by me personally. This betrayal was deliberately tolerated by me. Every step of the Jason family was within my calculations. When they celebrated their victory, thinking they had finally gotten rid of me as a burden, my hunting moment had just begun. I am not a parasite, I am the abyss. 1. That perfume that doesn't belong to me. I peeled shrimp for Jason. The shrimp shells were sharp, cutting my fingertip. A drop of blood bead emerged, mixing into the tender white shrimp meat. He didn't see it. He was bowing his head looking at his phone, with a smile on his lips. That kind of smile I hadn't seen in 3 years. "Who is it?" "So happy." I put the blood-stained shrimp meat into his bowl, my voice very light. "A client." Jason didn't even lift his head, clipped the shrimp meat into his mouth, and chewed twice. "Is it tasty?" I asked. Everything you peel is tasty." He said it very perfunctorily, his fingers tapping quickly on the screen. I smiled, didn't speak again, bowed my head and continued peeling shrimp. The dining room was very quiet, with only the crystal chandelier refracting cold light. My mother-in-law sat opposite, cleared her throat. "Celia, how long have you been married to Jason?" "Mom, 3 years. 3 years. She put down her chopsticks, her voice not loud, but very oppressive. "Your belly has no movement at all. Do you deserve our Jason family?" My fingers pinching the shrimp shell paused. "Mom, we're still young." "Young?" "Jason is not young anymore. He needs an heir. I don't care what method you use, within this year, you must get pregnant for me." Jason finally lifted his head from the phone, frowning. "Mom, what are you saying? Did I say something wrong? She married into our Jason family, isn't it just to pass on the lineage? She can't even lay an egg, what's the use of keeping her?" The words were very harsh. I lowered my eyes, long eyelashes covering the emotions in my eyes. Jason put away his phone, patted the back of my hand. "Don't listen to Mom, we'll let nature take its course." His hand was very warm, but I couldn't feel the temperature. I could smell a strange perfume on him. Not the one I use, nor the one he usually uses. It was a cloyingly sweet floral scent, like gardenia flowers about to rot in summer. I knew that perfume. Ivy liked it the most. Jason's white moonlight, 3 years ago, followed him for money, and kicked him for a better future. Now, she was back. After dinner, Jason went to take a shower. His phone was placed on the bedside table. No password. He said couples should be honest with each other. I picked it up, easily unlocked it. The screen was still on the chat interface. The pinned person avatar was Ivy's selfie, nickname E. The chat history was glaring. "Jason, was the shrimp tonight tasty?" "Not as tasty as when you feed me." "Then when are you coming?" "I'm wearing your favorite silk nightgown waiting for you." "Be good, I'll come over after I shower." There was also a photo. Ivy lying on the bed, long hair disheveled, eyes hazy. The nightgown on her was the one I bought a few days ago. So, that wasn't his client. That was his darling. I flipped through the chat history expressionlessly, page after page. All explicit flirting and indecent photos. The time started from half a year ago. So, I had been kept in the dark like a fool for half a year. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped. I quickly put the phone back in place, lay down, and closed my eyes. Jason came out, with steam all over, lifted the quilt and lay beside me. He hugged me from behind, his hands starting to misbehave. Wife, don't take Mom's words today to heart. Let's have a child. His breath sprayed on my neck, very hot. I stiffened my body, motionless. What's wrong? He noticed something was off with me. I turned around, looking at him. His eyes were very beautiful, like quenched starlight. Once, I was drowned in these eyes. Jason, I spoke, voice hoarse, do you love me? He was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Silly, if I don't love you, why marry you? He kissed down, carrying that strange gardenia scent. I didn't close my eyes. I looked at him clearly. Looking at the desire in his eyes, and the hidden weariness behind the desire. At this moment, my heart was very calm. Even a bit wanting to laugh. Jason, you will never know. This grand play named Betrayal, the director is me. And you were just the best male lead I selected. Leaving with nothing, I signed. I showed my cards. No hysteria, no crying. I just printed out Jason and Ivy's chat records, neatly placed them on the dining table. When he and my mother-in-law were having breakfast. My mother-in-law's face turned green on the spot. She picked up those indecent photos, her hands shaking. Beast. You beast. She slapped Jason's face with a crisp sound. Jason was stunned, 5 bright red finger marks instantly appearing on his face. He looked at me, his eyes full of shock and disbelief. Celia, you investigated me? Not really an investigation, I took a sip of milk, said slowly, just your phone forgot to mute, and I happened to see it. His face changed from red to white, then from white to green. You. Jason, my mother-in-law gasped with anger, chest heaving, you immediately break off with that vixen. Otherwise, I don't have you as a son. Jason was silent, didn't speak. He just stared at me deadly, eyes like spitting fire. I looked back at him, even with a slight smile on my lips. Mom, don't force him. I said, let's divorce. The air instantly froze. My mother-in-law was stunned, Jason was also stunned. Divorce? My mother-in-law screamed, no. Absolutely not. Do we still want the Jason family's face? If it spreads, how will others see us? Mom, Jason finally spoke, voice cold like ice, you go out first, I'll talk to her. My mother-in-law wanted to say something, but seeing Jason's eyes, still left unwillingly. Only the two of us left in the dining room. Celia, what exactly do you want? Jason stood up, approaching me step by step, his tall figure enveloping me. Is playing this cat and mouse game fun? Isn't it just wanting me to accompany you more? I promise you, in the future I'll come back 3 days a week, no, 4 days, okay? He thought I was throwing a tantrum, seeking attention. I laughed. Jason, did you forget, we signed an agreement when we married? His face changed instantly. That prenuptial agreement stipulates that if any party cheats during marriage, the at-fault party will leave with nothing, all assets under their name belong to the other party. I said word by word, very clearly. Jason's breathing became heavy, he clenched his fists tightly. You dare. See if I dare. I stood up, facing him, Jason, I only want what belongs to me. What belongs to you? He seemed to hear the biggest joke, Celia, what do you have? Everything you have is given by me. Your bags, your clothes, your car, which one wasn't bought by me? Without me, you're worse than a dog. Is that so? I took out my phone, dialed a number. Lance, you can come in. Soon, a man in a suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, came in. It was my lawyer. Mr. Jason, hello. Lance nodded politely, then took out a stack of documents from his briefcase. This is the divorce agreement drafted by Mrs. Jiang at my request, and all evidence of your infidelity during marriage. Including but not limited to chat records, transfer records, hotel records, and intimate videos of you and Miss Ivy in multiple occasions. Jason's face turned completely white. He didn't expect me to have so much. Celia, you're ruthless enough. He gritted his teeth, squeezing out a few words. Mutual. I won't sign. He roared, don't dream of taking a penny from me. Mr. Jason, I advise you to think clearly. Lance pushed his glasses. If these evidences are made public, not only will it cause devastating damage to your personal reputation, but JX Group's stock price will probably be affected significantly, right? Jason's body swayed. He knew I had grabbed his weakness. He could be shameless, but couldn't do without JX. That scene stalled for a long time. Finally, my mother-in-law rushed in. She probably heard our argument. Celia. You poisonous woman. You still want to divide our Jason family's property? I tell you, no way. She pointed at my nose and cursed loudly. Our Jason family is truly cursed for 8 generations, marrying a jinx like you. Not laying eggs is one thing, but wanting to murder for wealth. I looked at her, suddenly felt it was ridiculous. Mom, did you forget, 3 years ago, who begged me to marry Jason? My mother-in-law's face stiffened. Who said, as long as I agree to marry, everything in the Jason family would be half mine? Her lips trembled, unable to speak. Enough. Jason roared, interrupting me. He sat dejectedly on the chair, like all strength was drained. I'll sign. He said. My mother-in-law looked at him incredulously. Jason, are you crazy? I'm not crazy. Jason closed his eyes, full of fatigue. Let her go. I don't want to see her for another minute. I laughed. Took the divorce agreement and pen, handed it to him. Jason didn't look, directly signed his name at the end. The handwriting was scrawled, penetrating the paper. I put away the agreement, stood up. Jason, thank you for your fulfillment. After saying that, I turned and left, without a trace of reluctance. The moment I walked out of the Jason family gate, the sunlight was just right. I raised my head, squinted my eyes, and took a deep breath. In the air, there was no more that nauseating gardenia scent. Really good. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered. Hello? Miss, on the other end, a respectful male voice, everything is ready. Your 100 billion assets frozen for 3 years have been fully unfrozen. I curled my lips. Very good. Next, what should we do? Proceed as planned. I said, I want JX to disappear from this world within 3 days. Ivy moved into the Jason family. The speed was astonishingly fast. The day after I left, she moved into the villa where I lived for 3 years with the posture of the hostess. My things were packed into several garbage bags by my mother-in-law and thrown at the door. Ivy took a photo and sent it to me. In the photo, she was wearing my favorite cashmere coat, holding my cat, smiling complacently. The caption was, "Thank you sister for fulfilling, Jason and I will be very happy." I didn't reply. Directly blocked and deleted. Nothing to say to a defeated opponent. My legal team was very efficient. On the day the divorce procedures were completed, all properties, cars, and stocks under Jason's name were fully transferred. He went from a president worth billions to a debt-ridden pauper overnight. Of course, he still held the shares of JX Group firmly. That was his lifeline. It was also the last thought I left for him. Jason called me countless times. I didn't answer any. He started sending messages. From initial threats and curses, to later questions and confusion, finally turned into humble pleas. Celia, I was wrong, come back okay? I broke off with Ivy, I'll make her leave immediately, come back. I know you still love me, you're just angry with me. Let's start over, okay? I looked at those messages, only felt ironic. Men, this creature, only know to cherish after losing. Unfortunately, too late. I was no longer the little girl from 3 years ago who would be coaxed by a few sweet words. These days, I lived in a top-floor apartment in the city center. The view was good, overlooking most of the city's night scene. The JX Group building was also clearly visible. My assistant Ethan was reporting the latest situation to me. "Miss, JX Group's stock price has hit the limit down today." I swirled the red wine glass in my hand, eyes indifferent. The negative news we spread about JX's tax evasion and product quality issues has fully fermented. Now online, voices boycotting JX are everywhere. What's the movement on Jason's side? He's raising money everywhere, wanting to stabilize the stock price. But now his credit is bankrupt. Those friends who called him brother before, none are willing to help him. Ethan paused, continued, "Also, Ivy is pregnant." My drinking motion stopped. "Really?" "Yes, the pregnancy test sheet is out, more than a month." I laughed. Laughed very happily. "Really, heaven helps me." Ethan looked at me somewhat puzzled. "Miss, this." "Ethan," I put down the wine glass, looking at the JX building outside the window. "What do you think, when a man is destitute, suddenly knows he's going to be a dad, what reaction would he have?" Ethan thought, said, "Either despair, or, sees new hope?" "Correct." I stood up, walked to the huge floor-to-ceiling window. "For Jason, this child is his last straw. He will think he can use this child to entangle me, make me soften, make me turn back. He might even think, as long as the child is born, mother-in-law will accept Ivy, the Jason family will have an heir. Unfortunately." I stretched out my hand, as if to grasp that distant building. "He doesn't know, this trump card named Hope was also personally delivered by me to his hand." Ethan suddenly realized. "Miss, you mean Ivy's pregnancy?" I nodded. "I bribed her private doctor, added some stuff to her vitamin pills. It was a drug that promotes ovulation. Colorless and odorless, no harm to the body. It would only make her more likely to conceive. Next, we'll just watch the show." I turned, walked to the desk, opened the computer. On the screen was the internal surveillance footage of JX Group. In the footage, Jason was sitting in the president's office, looking haggard, desperately making calls. And Ivy, holding a pregnancy test sheet, rushed in crying. A good show was about to start. The news of Ivy's pregnancy exploded like a bomb in the Jason family. My mother-in-law's reaction was more intense than I imagined. She wasn't happy, but furious. According to the nanny Ethan placed in the Jason family, my mother-in-law slapped Ivy on the spot. "You bitch. You schemed against my son. I tell you, even if you're pregnant, don't dream of entering our Jason family door. Our Jason family only wants Celia as daughter-in-law." Ivy was stunned, covering her face, crying like pear blossoms in rain. "Auntie, what's in my belly is Jason's own flesh and blood. It's the Jason family's seed." "Pa." My mother-in-law spat, "Who knows whose bastard is in your belly? A promiscuous woman like you, God knows how many men you've slept with." Jason was present at the time. He didn't help Ivy, just sat silently aside, smoking one after another. He was also confused. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy, now a child popped up. His life was completely out of control. This farce ended with Ivy being driven out of the Jason family. My mother-in-law threw all her luggage out, like dismissing a beggar. Ivy had no way out, could only go to the media. She cried about being abandoned by Jason, accusing the Jason family of heartlessness. She thought this could gain sympathy, force the Jason family to submit. But she forgot, now JX could barely protect itself, who had time to care about a mistress's life? Her cries not only didn't get sympathy, but attracted more curses. Serves her right. A mistress destroying others' families, what face to cry? This kind of woman should be drowned in a pig cage. Jason isn't anything good either, a pair of dog couple, locked dead. Ivy completely became a street rat. And all this was within my expectations. On my mother-in-law's side, after making a fuss, she calmed down. She called me. On the phone, her voice carried a hint of imperceptible flattery. Celia, it's Mom who wronged you. Mom was blinded by lard before, thinking that Vixen was good. Now Mom understands, our Jason family can't do without you. Come back, okay? Mom apologizes to you, Mom can even kneel to you. I listened quietly, didn't speak. Celia, Jason knows he was wrong, now he chants you're good every day. And the company can't do without you. Weren't you the best at handling crisis PR before? Come back and help Jason. See, this is her real purpose. Not really feeling sorry for me, nor really regretting. Just because JX is almost done, she's scared. She wants me to go back, be that free firefighter. Mom, I finally spoke, voice very cold, did you forget, I've already divorced Jason. JX Group now has nothing to do with me. Its life or death is irrelevant to me. After saying that, I hung up directly. I could imagine on the other end, my mother-in-law's furious appearance. She would definitely curse me as ingrate, heartless. It doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. That afternoon, Jason came to my company to find me. My current company is named after myself, Chihung Capital. It's located right opposite JX Group. He rushed into my office, eyes bloodshot, full of alcohol smell. Celia. He grabbed my wrist, strength so great as if to crush my bones. Was it you? JX becoming like this, was it your doing? I didn't struggle, just looked at him calmly. Yes. I admitted very straightforwardly. Jason was stunned, he probably didn't expect me to be so direct. His eyes were full of pain and disbelief. Why? Where exactly did I wrong you? You want to ruin me like this? Didn't you wrong me? I countered, when you fooled around with another woman on our marital bed, did you think of wronging me? When you forced me to leave with nothing for that woman, did you think of wronging me? Jason, all this is what you asked for. He was rendered speechless by my questions. The strength in his hand gradually loosened. He slumped to the ground, like a lost child. Celia, I was wrong. He cried. A man in his 30s, crying like a fool in front of me. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been bewitched by that bitch Ivy. Forgive me, okay? Let's remarry, forget everything before, start over. I looked down at him from above. Looking at this face that once made my heart flutter, now I only felt disgusted. Jason, I said, do you know? 3 years ago, my father's company was ruined by your Jason family. His crying stopped abruptly, he suddenly raised his head, looking at me in shock. My father, also because he couldn't bear this blow, had a sudden heart attack and died. So, from the first day I married you, I've been waiting. Waiting for an opportunity, one that can make your Jason family pay blood for blood. Now, this opportunity has come. I squatted down, leaned to his ear, with a voice only we two could hear, gently said, "Welcome to my hell." Jason was completely dumbfounded. He slumped on the ground, eyes vacant, mouth muttering nonstop, "Impossible, impossible." He didn't want to believe that the family business he was proud of was built on the ruins of others. Even less willing to believe that the wife he thought loved him to the bone, gentle and virtuous, approached him from the beginning with the purpose of revenge. I ignored him, called security, escorted him out. Back in the office, I took out a locked diary from the safe. It was my father's. 3 years ago, after my father died, I found it while sorting his belongings. The diary's cover was dark brown leather, already somewhat worn. I opened it, familiar handwriting came into view. My father's diary recorded the hardships of his entrepreneurship, also his aspirations for the future. More so, how the Jason family used despicable means to swallow his company step by step. Back then, my father's company, Chihung Technology, achieved a major breakthrough in chip research and development, with a very promising future. Jason's family saw the potential in this technology and offered to acquire it. My father refused. He wanted to make Chihung big and strong by his own strength. So, the Jason family started using various dirty means. They bribed my father's most trusted deputy, stole core technical data. They maliciously spread rumors, slandering Qihong products had serious defects. They used connections to cut off all financing channels and supply chains for Qihong. Under internal and external troubles, Qihong soon couldn't hold on. Father begged everywhere, turned white-haired overnight, but powerless to reverse. Finally, the company went bankrupt and liquidated, acquired by the Jason family at an extremely low price. And that deputy who stole the core technology transformed into a high executive of JX Group. Father couldn't bear this blow, had a sudden myocardial infarction in the office, not rescued. The last page of the diary had only one sentence. I'm sorry to Celia, couldn't leave her a stable sky. Every time I see this sentence, my heart hurts like being cut by a knife. I closed the diary, eyes somewhat moist. Dad, rest assured. I didn't disappoint you. Not only did I guard this sky for you, I will also pull down those who hurt you one by one, let them taste the feeling of falling from the clouds. Ethan knocked and came in. Miss, JX Group declared bankruptcy. This result was within my expectations. Jason sold all shares in his hand, but still couldn't fill that hole. Now he not only has nothing, but owes a butt of debt. What about mother-in-law? His mother couldn't bear the stimulation, had a stroke and hospitalized, now hemiplegic, can't speak clearly. What about Ivy? Ivy, she heard the Jason family bankrupt, went to the hospital overnight to abort the child. Said to have hooked up with a new rich businessman, already abroad. Really, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. I don't sympathize with them at all. All this is their deserved retribution. Miss, Ethan hesitated, still spoke, next, should we acquire JX? I shook my head. No. A company already rotten to the roots, what do I want it for? I stood up, walked to the window. Looking at the opposite building already empty, eyes calm. What I want has never been JX. What I want is for it to disappear completely. Now, the purpose is achieved. I picked up the car keys on the table. Let's go, Ethan. Where to, miss? To a place I should go. I went to the cemetery. Father's tombstone was kept very clean. In the photo, he was still so elegant, wearing glasses, smiling gently. I placed a bunch of white chrysanthemums in front of the tomb, squatted down, gently brushed the dust off the tombstone with my hand. Dad, I came to see you. Your revenge, I avenged. The Jason family is done, completely done. Rest in peace. The wind blew, the pine and cypress forest rustled, like responding to me. I sat in front of the tomb for a long time, said many words. Talking about the jokes Father told me back then, about the braised pork he made, about how he always brought me a cup of hot milk when I studied late at night. Talking and talking, tears fell. So, the pleasure of revenge couldn't fill the emptiness in the heart. Destroying the enemy didn't make me feel true happiness. I just missed him more. If he were still here, how good it would be. I would rather not have this 100 billion assets, not this heaven-reaching means. I just want to be the little girl by his side who can act spoiled freely. Unfortunately, no ifs. I don't know how long passed, behind came a burst of footsteps. I turned back. It was Jason. He was more haggard than a few days ago, beard stubbly, eye sockets sunken, like aged 10 years suddenly. He also held a bunch of flowers, yellow chrysanthemums. He walked to my father's tombstone, put down the flowers. Then, with a thud, knelt down. Uncle, sorry. He cowed out heavily 3 times. His forehead was broken, seeping blood. I looked at him coldly, didn't speak. I didn't know. I really didn't know my dad did those things back then. His voice choked, sobbing uncontrollably. If I knew, I absolutely wouldn't. Saying these now, is it useful? I interrupted him, can my dad come back to life? He closed his eyes painfully. Celia, I know I was wrong, I don't seek your forgiveness. I came today to return this thing to you. He took out a USB drive from his pocket, handed it to me. This is, what? This is back then, all the original data my dad stole from Chihung Technology, and the recording of his transaction with that deputy. I was stunned. My dad always treated these things as his amulet, locked in the safe. I only discovered when sorting belongings a few days ago. With these, you can legitimately rebuild Chihung. After saying, he stood up, looked at me deeply. In that look, there was regret, guilt, and a trace of relief I couldn't understand. Celia, take care. He turned, left staggering. His back was desolate, like the last fallen leaf in autumn. I pinched the USB in my hand, mood complex. I didn't expect Jason to give me such important things. He could have destroyed it, or used it to negotiate with me. But he didn't. Perhaps, in his heart, there was still a trace of conscience. This revenge, up to here, should be considered ended. No winners. Each of us paid a painful price. I stood up, took a last look at Father's tombstone. Dad, I'm leaving. I'm going to start my own Chihung. I rebuilt Chihung Technology. The address was chosen as the original building of JX Group. I bought it, renovated from inside out. Removed the 4 gilded characters JX Group, replaced with the brand new signed Chihung Technology. On the opening day, sunlight was brilliant. I stood at the company door, cut the red ribbon. Applause thundered. Many old employees from Chihung came back. Seeing me, their eyes reddened. Miss, you finally came back. The old chairman's spirit in heaven can rest in peace. I looked at their familiar faces, mixed feelings in my heart. Thank you everyone. From today, together, let's make Chihung stand on the world's pinnacle again. My words were resounding. Everyone boiled. The USB Jason gave me played a key role. The original data inside was more precious than I imagined. It was my father's lifelong effort. With these, we quickly developed a new generation of chips, performance far ahead of all similar products on the market. Orders flew in like snowflakes. Chihung Technology became famous overnight, valuation soared. In just half a year, it exceeded JX Group's market value at its peak. I became the hottest new star in the business world. Countless media wanted to interview me, countless parties wanted to invite me. I refused them all. I put all my time and energy into work. Busyness could let me temporarily forget those unpleasant memories. It could also make me feel closer to Father. Ethan became my capable assistant, helping me handle daily company affairs. He advised me more than once. Miss, you should rest a bit. You should also consider personal matters. He said, many excellent men want to pursue me. There are young and promising startup elites, mature and steady family princes. I just smiled. After experiencing Jason, I have no expectations for relationships. Being alone is also pretty good. This day, I was looking at documents in the office. Ethan knocked and came in. Miss, a gentleman wants to see you, no appointment. Not seeing. I didn't lift my head. He said, his surname is Jiang. My signing hand paused. I raised my head, looking at Ethan. Let him in. Jason had lost a lot of weight. Also tanned. Wearing simple work clothes, like just back from the construction site. There was a faint sweat smell on him. He stood in front of my huge floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the bustling city outside, somewhat awkward. What do you want? I spoke, breaking the silence. He turned, looked at me. Eyes very calm, without previous resentment and unwillingness. I came to say goodbye. Goodbye? I'm leaving this city. He said, go to a place where no one knows me, start over. I was somewhat surprised. What are you doing now? He smiled self-mockingly. Moving bricks on the construction site. I don't know anything, no education, can only do manual labor. Pretty good, tiring but solid in heart. I looked at his rough hands, and the calluses on them, for a moment didn't know what to say. The once high-spirited JX president, now reduced to moving bricks on site. Fate plays tricks. This for you. He took out a cloth bag from his pocket, placed on my table. The bag opened, it was an insulated lunchbox. In the lunchbox, steaming wontons. It was my favorite, Liji wontons in the old alley in the south of the city. Before, I always dragged him to eat. He always disliked the poor environment, unhygienic. But every time, he would still accompany me. I have nothing to give you. He lowered his head, voice somewhat hoarse, just take it as, thank you, for still willing to see me at last. My heart, like stung gently by something. A bit painful. You. I'm leaving. He didn't wait for me to speak, turned to leave. Jason. I called him. He stopped, didn't turn back. I took out a card from the drawer, walked over, handed to him. There's some money in here, take it. The password is your birthday. Consider it me, buying this bowl of wontons you sent. He was silent for a long time. Finally, still took the card. Thank you. He said. Then, left without looking back. I watched his back disappear at the door. In my heart, mixed feelings. I sat down, opened the lunchbox. The aroma of wontons instantly filled the entire office. Still that familiar taste. I picked up the spoon, scooped one, put in my mouth. Very hot. Hot enough to make my tears flow. I don't know if these tears are for this bowl of wontons, or for that time that can never go back. Or, for that man I personally destroyed, whom I once truly loved. After eating this bowl of wontons, between us, really, no debts. The development of Qihong technology was not smooth sailing. When we released the new generation chip, ready to show our skills, a sudden crisis descended. Our main technology supplier, a foreign giant company, suddenly unilaterally announced to stop supplying core raw materials to us. The reason was suspecting we stole their trade secrets. This was simply nonsense. Our technology was completely independently developed, owning all intellectual property rights. But the other party didn't give us a chance to explain at all. One ban order directly forced us into a desperate situation. Without core raw materials, our production lines would fully stop. Signed orders couldn't be delivered on time, we would face astronomical penalties. More fatally, the company's reputation would be ruined. Behind this, someone must be making trouble. The opponent's means were fast, accurate, ruthless, every move aimed at our vital points. This reminded me of back then, the Jason family's means against my father. How similar. I convened an emergency meeting overnight. The company's executives, each with worried faces. Celia, what now? The raw materials in the warehouse can last at most a week. I've contacted all possible suppliers, but they all say they dare not offend that giant company, refuse to cooperate with us. Our stock price has started plummeting. If this continues, the company is done. In the meeting room, a pessimistic atmosphere. I looked outside the window, the city's night scene, lights brilliant. But my heart was ice cold. I worked hard to rebuild Qihong. I absolutely can't let it fall like this. Everyone don't panic first. I spoke, voice not loud, but had a soothing power. The more at such times, the more we need to be calm. Technical department, immediately organize people, find alternative raw material solutions. Even if performance is a bit worse, we need to survive first. Marketing department, appease our clients, try to gain their understanding and support. Tell them, Qihong won't fall. Legal department, prepare all materials, we need to fight that company to the end. I assigned tasks one by one. The executives' emotions gradually stabilized. They looked at me, hope reignited in their eyes. They believed I could lead them out of the predicament. After the meeting, I stayed alone in the office. I looked at the giant company's information on the computer screen. In my heart, vaguely a guess. This company, acting style so overbearing, behind must have powerful capital support. And to make such big capital spare no cost to deal with my small Chihong. The opponent's purpose probably not just for money. More like, personal grudge. In my mind, flashed one possible name after another. Finally, fixed on a person I almost forgot. Ivy. That woman who took a new sugar daddy and flew away. Is it her? Does she have such great power? I dialed Ethan's phone. Help me check a person. Ivy, and the man she's with now, I want all their information, the more detailed the better. Ethan's efficiency was high. The next day, a detailed information was on my desk. Ivy's new sugar daddy, named Harvey. A rich businessman who started with overseas trade, worth hundreds of billions, very influential abroad. And that giant company that cut supply to us, Harvey is one of its behind-the-scenes major shareholders. Indeed them. The information also had a photo. Ivy holding Harvey's arm, smiling like a flower. Harvey pot-bellied, face oily, age looking older than Ivy's father. It seems, to revenge me, Ivy also paid a considerable price. I looked at the photo, eyes ice cold. Ivy, you think finding a backer, you can make a comeback? You underestimate me too much. Also overestimate yourself. You are just a pawn in others' hands. And I am the chess player. I let Ethan help me appoint a person. This person is Harvey's archenemy, also his biggest competitor in business. Leon. Leon and I met at a private club. He was younger than I imagined, looking just over 40, in tang suit, elegant temperament, but eyes revealing an awe-inspiring dominance. Miss Celia, long admired. He personally brewed tea for me, movement smooth. Mr. Lee is polite. Straight to the point. Leon put down the teacup. Miss Celia looking for me, is for Harvey's matter, right? It seems Mr. Lee has good information. I've fought with Harvey for so many years, he placed people by my side, naturally I also placed a few eyes by his. He smiled, meaningful. Chihong's matter, I heard. Harvey this time, spared no cost, wants to destroy you. Why does he do this? I asked. For a woman named Ivy. Leon said, that woman is Harvey's recent new favorite, bewitched him completely. Heard that woman has some grudge with Miss Celia? More than grudge. I sneered, it's to the death. Leon nodded, indicating understanding. So, Miss Celia came today to ally with me against Harvey? Correct. I said, enemy's enemy is friend. Isn't it? Leon laughed heartily. Interesting, interesting. Miss Celia, I admire your courage and boldness. This favor, I'll help. He stood up, extended his hand to me. Pleasant cooperation. I shook his hand. Pleasant cooperation. I knew, this war, I've already won half. Harvey, Ivy. Your good days are over. My cooperation with Leon proceeded very smoothly. He used his overseas connections to help me find new raw material suppliers. Although the price was higher, it solved Chihong's urgent need. Production lines resumed, orders could be delivered on time. The company's stock price also started to rise slowly. But this was just the first step. My purpose was never self-preservation, but counterattack. Leon provided me with a portion of Harvey's black material. Tax evasion, smuggling, money laundering, each piece enough to make him rot in prison. I anonymously handed these evidences to relevant departments. A dragnet had quietly opened. Harvey was still unaware. He was still immersed in Ivy's gentle land, dreaming his dreams. He thought I was at the end of my rope, could only wait for death. He even high-profile announced to acquire a chip company, enter high-tech field. And the company he eyed was that giant that cut supply to us. This was exactly what I wanted. On the day of his acquisition ceremony, I sent him a big gift. Police descended from the sky, took away Harvey. Under flashlights, the astonishment and fear on his face were infinitely magnified. Ivy was scared silly on the spot, lost color, screaming wanting to flee the scene. But it was too late. As Harvey's mistress and accomplice, she was also taken away. This farce finally ended. The next day, all news headlines were occupied by 100 billion rich businessman Harvey arrested. His industries, tree fell monkeys scattered, stock prices plummeted, soon facing bankruptcy liquidation. And that giant company, because lost the biggest backer, fell into unprecedented crisis. I took the opportunity, united several capitals, with an extremely low price, completed the reverse acquisition of it. I not only took back our supply chain, but also mastered more advanced technology and broader market. Qihong Technology leaped to become the absolute leader in the industry. No one could shake our position anymore. In the office, I looked outside the window, clouds rolling. Ethan stood behind me, hesitant to speak. "What do you want to ask? Just ask," I said. "Miss," Ethan finally spoke, "all this, was it all in your plan? From the beginning, you knew Harvey would act against us?" I smiled, didn't answer directly. I turned, looked at my father's photo on the wall. "Ethan, do you know? In this world, the best hunter often appears in the posture of prey. When you gaze into the abyss also gazes into you. And I am that person who climbed out of the abyss." Ethan looked at me, eyes full of awe. He finally understood. From beginning to end, I was playing a big chess game. The Jason family, Ivy, Harvey, they were all just pawns on my chessboard. And I am the one holding the chess. The rules of the game are set by me. The win or lose of the game is also decided by me. Everything settled. Qihong Technology's market value broke through the trillion mark. I became the existence admired by countless people. They say I am the business queen, a legend, a myth. But only I know. Standing on the mountain top, how cold it is. I never had relationships again. There are suitors around, but I refused them one by one. My heart died 3 years ago. What's left is just a shell living for revenge. Now, revenge is done. But I feel even emptier. I don't know what to live for in my next life. This evening, I drove alone, aimlessly wandering the streets. Unknowingly, drove to that old alley in the south of the city. Li Ji Wanton's sign was still lit. I stopped the car, walked in. Not many people in the store, the boss was packing up, preparing to close. He saw me, stunned. "Girl, it's you." "Boss, still remember me?" "Remember, of course." The boss smiled honestly. "You and your husband used to come often." "Husband?" How distant and ironic a word. "Boss, a bowl of wontons." "Coming." I found a seat. The store was small, also old. Yellowed newspapers still pasted on the wall. But very clean, also warm. The wontons came up quickly. Steaming hot, aroma assaulting the nose. I ate slowly, like tasting an old time. "Girl, where's your husband?" The boss couldn't help asking. "Haven't seen him for a long time." "We separated," I said. The boss didn't ask more. Just sighed. "A while ago, a young man came every day to pack wontons. Thin and tall, looking quite down and out. Every time instructed me, add more cilantro, more vinegar. He said, his lover likes this flavor the most." My hand shook. The spoon dropped into the bowl, making a crisp sound. I knew, the person the boss said was Jason. "Then?" I asked, voice somewhat trembling. "Then? Then never seen again." The boss said, "Probably left this city." I lowered my head, looking at the floating cilantro and vinegar in the bowl. Tears, drop by drop, fell into the soup. Salty. Astringent. So, he always remembered my flavor. So, in corners I didn't know, he once loved me in his own clumsy way. Unfortunately, we can't go back. When walking out of the wonton store, it started raining lightly. I didn't umbrella, walked alone in the rain. Rain wet my hair, my clothes. Very cold. I raised my head, looking at the night sky dyed orange by neon lights. This road is very long. No end. And I am destined to walk it alone.